Patrick, where we're sitting right now here at Grain Exchange and the overall Star Campus, it's really so new here in Newark. It's much different than when
Very
you
much
were a
new.
student athlete
This is
here.
the old car plant.
Yeah, the transformation that's taken place. What were your thoughts over the years as you got back as a scout, certainly able to do pro day? I can remember you and your Titans fit at pro day and being in the Whitney Athletic Center. Maybe that was when you got your first impressions of it, but to be fully enthralled in it now, what are your reactions to the kind of the landscape of this campus?
My main thought is just excitement about how much we've gained and how far we've come and how far we will go in the future. The fact that this Star Campus is here right now, the facilities we have at the Whitney, I mean, we're top notch right now, not just across Group of 5, Group of 6, but across all of FBS football. We're a premier institution. I think now that we're playing FBS football in Conference USA, the world can all come and see, hey, Delaware has a lot going on right now, whether it be academically, whether it be facilities, whether it be football, whether it be our other sports that are conference champions. They'll come in and see, hey, Delaware has a lot going for itself right now. This is a premier institution, and we're looking forward to showing the world how serious we are about football as well.
Bryce, if I could jump in for one, and then you might have been thinking this as well, and calling audible here. Want to speak more to your playing days because I remember watching you play.
Thank
for
you.
Sure.
I appreciate
it. And it was so much fun. And I'm looking to see maybe your top memories from your playing career.
Top memories. Wow, that's a good one. I would say one of my favorite memories is probably 2013 here, playing against James Madison. I had a chance to get an interception to kind of seal the game against those guys. You know, we hate the Dukes here at Delaware, so we're coming for those guys in a couple years. But having a chance to seal the game against the Dukes here was a highlight of my career. And the fact that I remember the play, there was an interception on that play. It happened earlier in the game, and I came back to the same play and jumped the route the second time and made a pick to seal the game. So that's one I always remember for not only for making the play, but also for doing the homework a week before. The play was coming. I'm really proud of that as well. So that's probably my highlight right there. And many more to come here as a GM.
Pat and Jordan and the rest of them have to get over the flight path to start the season. But, I guess we'll finish this off, game day review. Go to sleep last night, waking up. Does the game day experience feel a little bit different in this role compared to as a player?
I still have jitters, but it's different now. It's more so making sure we're on schedule, making sure we're organized, making sure we're cruising the right spot. I'm more so having jitters now about executing the game plan before the game, more so than the game itself. The game for me would be a chance to sit back and enjoy and watch our young men go out there and do what they're supposed to do and handle business. For me now, the big onus is pregame. I've been busy all day with different things, different tasks. So I think most of my effort and energy will spend pregame beforehand, making sure everything's organized and ready to go. And then once the game happens, I can sit back and relax and watch the Hens get a W. So I'm excited for that.
And then, Pat, where will you be watching I'm sorry. Where will you be watching the game this afternoon, this evening? Because you don't necessarily have to be at field level, but you may want an up-top view. What's going to be your evaluation perch?
I think I'll figure it out as the season goes along. For right now, the first game I'll be on the sideline here and helping out however the team needs me. And we'll see how it goes throughout the rest of the season where I'll be at during game day. So for right now, I think I'll be on field level, helping out the young men, getting the Blue Hens fired up, and helping out anywhere I possibly can to help us get a W today.
Awesome.
What a start. Interim Athletic Director Jordan Smolnick and now General Manager Pat Calloway joining us. Give Pat hands as we're going to take a little break here ourselves. We'll be right back to finish the videos after this. Thank you, Pat.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks much.
Ready. Thanks, guys.
Welcome back to Feathers and Field Goals live on location for the first time in podcast history. Bryce Leslie, Dan Steenkamer, now joined by one of our key guests on the schedule today, because this guest is an individual who was instrumental in allowing this to happen here at Grain Exchange on site on game day. We've been looking forward to it for so long, and it's Jabri Z. Jeffries who helped us make this event happen. Z works in development at the University Athletic Department, and previously Z worked with a couple rivals of UD. We'll mention them briefly. Maybe some boos and hisses in the crowd for Temple. Temple mentioned. Villanova, also a previous stop for Z. And most recently, though, Ohio State, a stop on Z's tour through college athletics. And now we're happy that Z's at Delaware. Thank you so much for joining us, Z. And I wanted to open things up by allowing you to provide everybody some insight into the behind the scenes of how this was put together and how we kind of formulated things in conjunction with the Blue Hen Touchdown Club, which I know we're also recognizing today as well.
Yes. Well, gentlemen, first and foremost, thank you for having me on today. It's a pleasure to be a guest and to also partner with you two to make this happen. And yeah, just to give a little bit of insight, being partnered with both the Blue Hen Touchdown and Grain Exchange is monumental for us, right? Because they are both significant supporters of Delaware athletics and the university. So it only made sense to do it, right? To showcase the Blue Hen Touchdown Club and everything that they do for the university and Delaware athletics. But then also Grain Exchange, like, I know everyone can't see, but if you really look around, like, why would you not want to come here and pregame and postgame? Like, it's the place to be, man. Like, you have a open window here, and the sunlight it's the prime location right here on Start Campus. So it just made sense to do so.
Like you said, beautiful site here, and we were so happy to tour with you, Z, last week. Had some Lewis Coffee Co. as well beforehand. Beautiful out. We have a DJ out on the lawn right now, and Pete and Lee and everybody within the Grain organization run a fantastic business, and it's fantastic to be here with Dan with you today, and Z with you, and Z, give a little insight about yourself. Dan kind of gave an introduction about your brief history, and now director of development within the university. What was your calling into this industry, and what really brought you into Delaware? Really wanting to make the next step in your career.
Man, how much time do we have?
We have some time. Go for it. Yeah.
Well, just a little bit of background on me. So I'm a former athlete. I think a lot of people who think of sports, they think of only playing on the field, which was something that I thought about myself. However, as you go through in life, you really figure out what your true calling is. And I tell people all the time, getting into philanthropy and fundraising, it's not something you go to school for. I'm an alum of Temple University, which y'all kind of mentioned a little bit earlier, and I double majored in accounting and marketing and with a minor in legal studies. So it's like, well, how did you fall into this? I thought I was going to be a finance bro right out of college, and noticed that it really wasn't for me. So I tried to get my footing and what it looked like to break into the sports industry, right? And my wife, who's actually watching this now, she was very monumental in pushing me to say, hey, chase your dreams and follow, what it is that you really want to do. So I started getting my footing in the sports industry and started in honestly marketing and fan engagement. So that was my first calling, and that's what I fell into. But then I was introduced into fundraising and philanthropy, and ever since then, it's been a way for me to connect my passion with a purpose. And something I learned always is to pay it forward. It was something that once I found it, I said, hey, well, until I'm able to contribute as a lot of the lovely folks around us in Grain Exchange are doing today, I said, I'm going to help other people connect that passion with a purpose and do so.
I'm just fired up hearing that on a game day. And it's not just bluster, because we had those kind of conversations with you as well, Z, as we were doing a site visit here and getting set to lay out this whole layout for our first live show that, Bryce, you've been such a big help in as well. I want to recognize you as well along the way. But it brings to mind one of the conversations that we had, which was a belief in Delaware academics along with athletics and all being kind of rolled up in one and the same mission as far as the values that you pitch and that you remind people of when you're stewarding donors and all the things that go into development and fundraising.
Yeah, so kind of touching on the first part, right, about the academic prestige of the University of Delaware. We are here at a top 10 public university. Like, let that sink in for a second. A top 10. There are thousands of universities out there, and we're a top 10 public university. So, like, we need to get a round of applause for that, right? But when you take it a step further, and I tell people this all the time, you combine the academic prestige of the University of Delaware and then pair that with the history of athletic excellence here. When we really talk about that transition from FCS to FBS, you got to put us on that Mount Rushmore. 6 national championships? Like 6. How many institutions can say that? So you have 6 national championships as an athletic institution, but then you're also top 10 as a public university. You can't beat that.
We had a great conversation with interim athletic director Jordan Skolnick to start this off tonight. And now we're very excited to have you with us to kick off this event. Given his background in external relations and fundraising, how has it been for him to really show his leadership and his vision in the program? And how has it been for you working alongside Jordan?
Man, I say this, right? My decision to come to the University of Delaware were based on three things: academic prestige, athletic excellence, and leadership. Delaware checked all of those boxes. And talking about Jordan directly, right? Having a leader who's been in the same position as you can't beat it, right? And then as an individual, and talking about his leadership, he remains nimble and innovative in this changing landscape of college athletics. So while we're continuing to grow, we're being nimble because change is always going to happen. But we're also trying to remain at that forefront of how do we be innovative and how do we continue to catapult ourselves into national relevance.
Let's get right down to business, Z. Let's keep it going, getting down to business in terms of diving into the fundraising strategies a little bit in the department. You know, Jordan's leadership has been exemplary in terms of demonstrating, I think, for Delaware fans and supporters, you know, the modern new age different buckets, right, where contributions can go toward. You think about revenue sharing models through like a student athlete excellence fund, if I'm getting that name correct. You can correct me officially on the terms, but having that bucket in addition to traditional athletic fund contributions and travel budgets and all those things where there are different areas to support now than there were before. How do you think that's being received so far by Delaware fans and donors? And kind of what was the thinking overall and how that message is being relayed to the Delaware fan base?
Yeah, that's a great question, right? And I'm going to go back to my previous answer of remaining nimble and innovative. The landscape is changing right in front of our eyes. So it's always, okay, well, what buckets do we have that we can increase the support? So first and foremost, we're an academic institution, right? So when you look at the athletic landscape and it's changing from roster limits, well, scholarship limits to now roster limits, right? We created these two new buckets, one being our student financial aid bucket, where a lot of our alumni, fans, and supporters can contribute directly to that increase in scholarship support. And then that student athlete excellence fund, it allows us to continue to remain nimble in supporting our student athletes above the scholarship limit. So those are two buckets that we've been innovative in creating because you see it across the college athletic landscape. So many people are doing things to keep that edge of competitive excellence. And that's what we're, continuing to do, because I don't want people to get it misconstrued and saying like, hey, we're trying to do this. We've already been competitively excellent. Now it's just keeping that edge. So those are two main buckets. But then also, we here at the University of Delaware, we look at our athletic department as the front porch of the institution. We're looking to increase our geographic footprint, right? So when you're also looking at those buckets and now us being in Conference USA, we're going to increase that geographic footprint. For example, next week we'll be in Colorado taking on the Buffs. We have 450 people registered for our tailgate there. That's 450 people that's going to be there supporting the Blue Hens as we take on Colorado. And then that allows us to increase visibility. With increasing visibility, it allows us to increase the prestige of the institution, but also increase admissions and enrollment as well.
It was a really missed opportunity for me, Dan. I was talking about it. I think you're probably one of the 450 people, maybe not a part of it, but you're going to be out there. I know Brody behind doing all the production for us is also going to be there. I just got married in the summer, and I had my bachelor trip out in Denver, and it
Oh,
was
wow.
such a missed opportunity not to save that trip until week 2. But we'll worry about week 2 when we get there. Thinking about week 1, just waking up today, so excited. The first game day in FBS and school history and the Route 1 rivalry here in Grain Exchange. Just being a part of this, Dan, is so great. As Delaware is transitioning into CUSAZ, how are you benchmarking the athletic department's administrative and support functions against other institutions within the conference? What are some key performance metrics and indicators for success in this new environment that you're really pinning on heading into the athletic calendar year?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the easiest key performance indicator, right, would be saying wins and losses. I think that's how everyone, benchmarks success. But as I mentioned earlier, athletics is the front porch to the institution, and this move from FCS to FBS and going to Conference USA was more than just about athletics. It was about the entire institution. So when we're looking at those KPIs, we're also looking at, one, how has our enrollment numbers increased? Because we're going to be in some really interesting markets, right? Florida, Texas, Tennessee, even getting out to the Midwest as well with Western Kentucky, and being out there in that area. So we're going to be looking at how do our enrollment numbers increase while we're also increasing the academic profile, and then also engaging our supporters in those key markets as well. Because for the longest, a lot of what was going on was around us here. But now, expanding that geographical footprint, we're able to engage our fans and supporters in so many different areas. So I want to say, like, those are two big KPIs for us and looking at it. So again, one, what does admissions and enrollment look like? And then two, what does that engagement for our fans and supporters look like?
Before I pass it over to Dan, just to follow up on that, you kind of talked about, connecting academics, top 10 public university with athletics. In a role like yourself being director of development, how important is it to really pull in the academic numbers to really portray the athletic success?
Yeah, I think it's very important, right? We've had, from an athletic standpoint, we've had several years, going on more than a decade of our student athletes having over a 3.0 GPA. So when you're talking about that academic excellence there, like, you also have to tie in our student athletes with it. But when we're talking about the academic prestige of the institution, I think a lot of our fans and supporters also want to know, like, hey, how is the university doing? And I tell people this all the time, like, we're going to have conversations about athletics, but anything that you want to ask me about the institution in itself, let's talk about it. Like, Great Exchange is in the heart of the Star Complex. Like, when we really think about it, it used to be a plant over here. Now we have an academic facility compound that's rivaling a lot of institutions. So, like, again, that's that academic prestige part.
Getting set to close things up with you here, and you've been generous with your time, not only in speaking with us, but in being here to help us out, hooking us up with these sweet helmets. I mean, this just makes it feel like we're right on TV. So we've got a little ways to go, I think, before we wind up on linear, Bryce. But anyhow, this has been phenomenal, and wanted to also, at a basic level, get your mood for seeing the Conference USA logo painted on the field. It's in both places. Gotta just be probably up a wall excited, because it's a return for you to that FBS level. And now, as you gain more experience at UD, it seems like, are you seeing this as a chance to really open new levels and open new doors to what you can achieve with your team in terms of garnering that support for athletics here?
Yes, I think you hit it right on the head, right? The opportunities are endless for us. And the only thing that we have to do is we have to embrace it. That door is open. Now we just have to walk through it and embrace it and continue to level up and continue to grow as we've been doing. So I leave everyone with this, right? Continue to support Delaware, continue to support Delaware athletics, because we all want to see the institution and our athletic programs at the pinnacle of academic success and athletic success. And you all individuals, including you two, are monumental in it. So don't take this as an opportunity to say, hey, I need to do more. Take it as an opportunity to say, hey, let me continue to be engaged and continue to grow. Because at the end of the day, opportunities are endless. We're going to continue to rise. So go Blue Hens.
That's well said. That's so well said by Z. I may have been trying to squeeze in an extra follow up on CUSA, which many of on the road opponents have you had a chance to over your travels and in your career? Have you been to many of those places yet, or are there going to be some new sites that you're as you engage with different fans and followers on the road?
Yeah. So in Conference USA, all of the campuses are going to be relatively new besides FIU. I've visited that campus a few times, but for the most part, all of the teams in Conference USA are pretty new territory to me, and I'm excited to get down to those locations, engage our fans and supporters, and get some wins and continue to put Delaware on the map.
Z, thank you so much for sitting down with us and talking Blue Hen, talking, like you said, so much about sports outside of the field. And it was so good to learn more about what you guys are doing in the development department. Thank you so much for including us. Thank you so much for sitting down with us. Go Blue Hens.
Thank you for having me. Go Blue Hens.
Give it up for Z. Before we take another break, though, we are excited to. Thanks, Z. We're excited now to another hockey substitution here to have a Blue Hen Touchdown Club. We've talked about how great this organization is for the university, and we're so excited to now welcome the president of Blue Hen Touchdown Club, Russ Crook. Russ, thanks for sitting down with us and being here. Everyone give it up for Russ.
Hey, this is fun. Thanks for doing this, guys. Really appreciate it.
Well, it is a dream. It's been a dream, and to really round out our group here, a great collection of Blue Hen speakers, but we'd be remiss not to catch up with the leading representative of the Touchdown Club in Russ, given that the club is co-hosting today's event, the Touchdown Club helping make this all possible. Really a great kickoff to the year. I know just yesterday the club enjoyed its first weekly luncheon of the season, so we'll get into it. But to start things out, for those listeners and viewers who might be unfamiliar with the Touchdown Club here at Delaware, could you outline its mission, its history a bit, and the legacy it has in supporting UD football?
I will give you that information, but first I have to ask you, or let you know, that today feels like the night before Christmas for me. This is so damned exciting. I can't believe it. So
that's how I felt last night. Last night it was the night.
We're finally here. So the Blue Hen Touchdown Club was actually founded in 1946. That's before I was born. I want you to know that, okay? And what I did learn, interestingly, just recently, is that it's the same year, 1946, that the UD Marching Band was founded. And it had 25 members, by the way. Not much of a band, was it? Well, they've come a long way. So the club was founded in 46. We've grown recently, thankfully, and we've grown recently, I think, primarily because of this move that we've made to FBS. There's more interest, more fun ahead. We know that.
Russ, can you tell us about your personal journey? Like you said, you weren't around in 1946 to be a part of the Touchdown Club, but what really made you fall in love with the Blue Hens and really want to become a more critical member to express your fandom?
Well, the way I found out about it, actually, Delaware football. I grew up in New Jersey, and I was offered a couple of colleges. Decided to go to UD. I didn't even know Delaware had a football team. I didn't know. And then I was in the student center, and somebody left a media guide on a table. The media guide was like this and about this thick. So I learned the history, and I got hooked. The first game, 1968, you can look it up, Hofstra University. They were favorites, and we beat them 35-0. And I haven't missed a game since, as much as I can. So.
Well, it goes way back. It goes way back for you then and for so many members of the club, although we'll speak to more. It's a great variety of Touchdown Club members, all supporting the Delaware football program. We'll get into it more as our conversation goes on, but wanted to get more of a sense of, we say president of the Blue Hen Touchdown Club. What does that entail for you in leading the group? What's been rewarding about that experience? I know you're rounding it out here pretty soon. This is a great finale season for you in that role, but what are the aspects of being the leader of the Blue Hen Touchdown?
Well, it's getting dates for meetings in the Bob Carpenter Club. So we meet the day before home games, 2 days before away games. So we need to arrange a schedule. The football office, thankfully, provides us with a coaches or assistant coach each week, and then we then invite other guest speakers. And we've had some very good folks coming this year. Some old time names: Roger Mason, Ed Clark. These are people from my era. But we also have we've had Kevin Trestlini from the News Journal come in, and I can't think of everybody right now, but we have great speakers every week. Yep.
I'm super excited to get one of those luncheons later on for the luncheon before the first game of Conference USA before the Western Kentucky.
We are looking for your brilliance and knowledge on that date. Okay.
You give me too much credit. Let's see. How was that first luncheon yesterday? Were the vibes around the room a lot different heading into the first year of FBS?
Yeah. My problem was you underestimated the crowd size. So we had more people than expected, but thankfully we had enough. And we had a great presentation by George Stolman, of course, after heard from Coach Carty. Coach Carty gave us a rundown of things, gave us some very interesting information. One question I had for him was about helmet communications, which I found very interesting. So one player on each side will have the helmet communication. The coaches they communicate up until 15 seconds before the play clock goes down. And interestingly, during practice, all the quarterbacks were wearing head communications during practice. So Coach Carty could instruct all the quarterbacks, all 5 of them, 6 of them. How many do we have?
Like 6.
So there's a lot of teaching going on. So it was good.
It's funny because we're sitting here together, pregame show before we go over into the stadium to talk. You just gave a pregame. Our next segment eventually we're going to talk about 3 things that Dan and I are looking forward to. Pretty sure that green dot player movement. Dan, I know you were also there at the talk. You got the insight. I think that's one of your things you want to talk about. So you give me a little pregame for that. Transitioning from Touchdown Club into the season ahead for Blue Hens. Looking ahead to the coming season, Conference USA, what are some key events or aspects of the year the club are most looking forward to? And what's your overall expectations for the team in this new era? I'm in.
My over/under on wins is 6.5.
6.5?
Yeah. Now that's have lower expectations. Somebody said 3.5. I would take over on that big.
I think the main drive is 5.5. I think that's break down split. And that number, that over on the 5.5 is, there's no more FCS playoffs. Probably the goal. Of course, not bowl eligible officially in 25, can still find a way to get there. But that 5.5, that's the new goal. So,
well, today's going to be fun. It's going to be for the first time, of course. Then the excitement ahead. Colorado will be out there for sure. Many members of the Touchdown Club will be out there. It's been mentioned already. Western Kentucky. Did you see them the other night? They look good, didn't they? What's that quarterback? Maverick.
Yep.
MacGyver. What a name! What a name!
Names Maverick MacGyver.
And that wide receiver so good. Oh my God! So the competition is going to be stepped up, and it's going to be a lot of fun. That's the game I'm looking forward to.
We know this is a question we love to ask you each year, let alone CUSA years. But which games you're thinking of traveling to this year, and just thinking to the contingent of Delaware fans, including Touchdown Club members who so often travel on the road and follow the Hens.
Well, I'm definitely booked for Colorado, FIU. The Velo flies out of Wilmington. That's going to be a piece of cake to Fort Lauderdale. We're definitely going to close this game. Wake Forest, of course. What am I leaving out? I'm leaving out Sam Houston, I guess, at Jack State. Is that what I'm leaving out?
Well, I'll keep you covered for Sam Houston. I'll get down to Sam Houston, so I'll represent you down there.
That's a little question. I asked somebody backstage, and he said, "Don't go." Okay, I don't. It looks nice to me. I don't know.
Well, there's always ESPN too. Like we got to talk about the tour a little bit ago.
You got it.
Additionally, for you, Russ, getting onto the field, we talk about the whole season and we talk about in such Big 10 issues for the opener. But looking to tonight's game versus Delaware State, we're fortunate enough to have Delaware State and Delaware helmets here. So we're talking this game for a little bit. Which positions on Delaware's roster do you think we'll be focusing in on, especially tonight, getting the first chance to see the 2025 Blue Hens? Maybe some particular positions of interest.
Well, there are so many new players. We did learn yesterday that some of our skilled players are dinged up a bit. I assume coach meant wide receivers. So I think we'll see an array of players that we've not seen before. So that'll be exciting. My challenge is going to be getting to know the names and numbers, for goodness sakes. But I'm looking forward to see Joe Silver. I hope he's one of the healthy ones. And the running back from Tulane, Ellison, is it? I understand he's dynamite. So that'll be fun. And Jake Thor. We love Jake Thor. The Touchdown Club loves Jake Thor. Okay? So,
Heading into the first game, do you have the same seats that you have every year? Or you're in the same spot?
Well, since the stadium was renovated, yes, we've had the same seats. Section 105, which is the club seats. I did have to move them because I was like 3 or 4 rows down the first year. And I realized when I was getting up and cheering, some folks behind me didn't appreciate it. So the ticket office was able to move me back to the last row. So I can stand up and not block anybody. They might be annoyed by my noise, but that's tough.
I'm not sure if Dan has a concluding one that so I'll give you. You gave a prediction on the season. I think I posted a few hours ago. Give me a prediction on today's game. Do you have a prediction on today's score?
45-7.
45-7.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's aggressive too. I know.
Well, I hope you're right.
In case you didn't tell, I'm a very enthusiastic fellow. Okay,
I feel like, Russ, the only fitting way to close us out in this great conversation, and we'll probably carry it our way over to the venue a little bit now, but what is your elevator, or as it is here, grain exchange pitch for membership Touchdown Club? I know the Touchdown Club is continuing to expand. It's been a great all season in terms of new members and the continued support of the club. What are the top missions the club supports the football program? And then also, if you could speak to the keystone events for the club, senior recognition. I know the banquet annually that the Touchdown Club puts on for Delaware football. It's kind of all those things rolled into one as you continue to shepherd this group forward.
There are a number of things we do for the team, not the least of which for each winning game we have MVPs, so offense, defense, and special teams. They're presented a plaque. New this year, thanks to the new rulings with NCAA, we can give a reward, financial reward, $50 to scout team players, offense and defense. So these are the guys that are working their tails off all week, trying to make the starters better, and they deserve it as well. We have a senior backwards award at the end of the year, and then we rebuild funds to do special things. So, like, we made a major contribution to the athletic center. We helped fund the alumni golf outing, and I'm thinking of some other thing that we did. The summer practices. So the coaches put them on. That's not funded by UD. We help fund that, and this is the place where the coaches, high school kids, get them interested, and choose the best one. Hopefully, make it. So,
well, we're sitting here today because of our love for the Blue Hens. We're here for another season, and Russ, I feel like I can speak for both Dan and myself of how much we both are thankful and all the support that you've given us over the past few years. It really means a lot to us on our end, especially, because.
Well, you guys have kicked the whole thing up a notch. We appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Well, we've had 2 guests and a break, and we just had another 2 great guests. Give it up for Russ Crook, Touchdown Club. Thank you for sitting down for us.
Thank you, guys.
We're going to take another break ourselves, and we're going to come back on and talk about what Dan and I are looking for this game this season. So we'll take a little break, and we'll be back on for one more segment of our show. So thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome back to Feathers and Field Goals, the live podcast live streaming in exchange on the University of Delaware Star Campus in Newark. I'm Dan Steenkamer, co-host of Feathers and Field Goals, along with Bryce Leslie, and also for Brody back at the main production table just off screen. That is absolutely a wonderful setup. Brody has been carrying us all afternoon long, also helping us work through our initial glitch early on. It has been just phenomenal. I use that adjective again. It's been great, along with our guests so far, Bryce. So fortunate for us to rotate through those guests with the helmet setup and everything.
This is our first time ever doing this, Dan. And, when we had the technical difficulties in the beginning, I'm someone that doesn't keep my cool that well, and we're going through that. And I couldn't picture anyone better than Brody really holding it together for us back there. After this last break, I read the comments, and one comment, you're going to record a whole podcast without audio, but
that's
I'm glad
not the
that
plan,
fixed.
Right?
Yeah, that wasn't the intentions. Brody held it together back there for us, and we're here. And
yeah, I should note, though, it's a great crowd on site hearing us over the overhead at Grain. So we did have the restaurant crowd hearing the podcast so far. So it's been great to have a great crowd here with the help of the Touchdown Club and with the athletic department at UD. But Bryce, we're getting into our 3 and Out segment now as we head toward 5 o'clock and the conclusion of our show. We'll each provide 3 things, switching off, that we're looking forward to tonight, looking forward to seeing in action for Delaware football versus Delaware State in the Route 1 rivalry. Bryce, your first string of 3 things and 3 and Out.
Well, actually, this morning I felt like Christmas morning. I listened to the Blue Hen Coaches Show. Scott Claxton sat down with Ryan Carty for the first show recorded. They talked about the quarterback room and how everyone loves talking about, he tried to get the starter out of him. We know Coach Carty. We're going to get the starter out of him. We're going to figure that out around 7 o'clock when people are taking snaps for the first time. But I'm really focused on who's going to be on the other end of these on the other end of these balls from the quarterback. Last year we had playmakers Marcus Yarns, Phil Lutz. And I think we said when he had him on our podcast, 9 touchdowns, 900 yards, 12 touchdowns. I think it was around those numbers. And talked about filling production from Lutz. And he said it's not alike for a 1-for-1 replacement. So I'm really curious to see who's going to step up out wide for the Hens this year. And, talking about earlier with Z, talking about the buckets of the athletic department, I'm kind of viewing the wide receiver room as buckets this year. And the first bucket being the trio of transfers from a year ago being senior Max Patterson from Rutgers, a couple graduate students, and Nick Lavoie coming from Cornell, Jake Thaw coming from Michigan, and really standing out on the team last year. I think the 3 of them, as we talked about with Coach Archer early in camp, but seeing which of those 3, if not a mix of all 3, really stepping up in production. That second bucket being the trio of new transfers coming in, and Rutgers transfer Thomas Amonkwa, having Coastal Carolina transfer Kyrie Duplessis coming in, who's someone who I think you're going to see number 19 on the field really early tonight for the Blue Hens. And then as well as redshirt freshman from West Virginia, Brandon Raymond. So that's my second bucket of another trio transfers coming this year, seeing which Hens step out on the field first. And that third bucket is that group already in-house, recruited from the start. That could be junior Jakari Kelly from the slot. You have a junior Donovan Lewis as well, who you see on special teams and could see out on offense this year as well. And then thinking about sophomore Sean Wilson, 2 catches last year, 2 touchdowns, 100% touchdown rate. We talked about that. I don't think he can keep up the 100% touchdown rate, but I think me and you have talked so highly about him taking a jump. Matt McKinley-Daniels, another player I think is going to have a big sophomore leap as well. Then you have players like Nick Tyree, and you have a freshman class coming in. So it's a lot of names out there for wide receiver, and I'm curious to see who's going to be on the other ends of the balls from the quarterback tonight.
That was a great breakdown, Bryce, that you provided, because there are so many wide receivers who Delaware expects to count on and to rotate through in a game. It's one of those several positions, defensive line, wide receiver, those sorts where you see a good cycle through. And I do think receivers, we'll see healthy regulars out there. I'm expecting Jake Thaw tonight. I'm expecting Max Patterson, expecting Nick Lavoie. That'll be a great sight, assuming all holds to my prognostication on that a few hours before kickoff versus Del State. I'm going to keep it for my first thing to watch tonight. I'm going to keep it on the offensive skill positions with the running backs, replacing the production of Marcus Yarns. First up in that role, it's going to be Joe Silver. Joe Silver getting a lot of shine this offseason. Let's see how Silver responds to the hype, really. I mean, it's been some hype over the course of the offseason for Silver, and it was great to see him representing Delaware at Conference USA Media Day with UD professor Mike Corey, also hosting that program on ESPN+, which is where tonight's game will be live streamed as well. But I do think that Joe is really taking it in stride, no pun intended for a running back there, but Silver embracing being that new RB1. But then who follows up Silver first? Will it be Byron Ellison, the transfer running back from Tulsa? I feel like I've heard his name more and more as we get closer and closer to the today's game. So Ellison could be perhaps the RB2, first running back coming in for Silver. But we've also seen Saeed St. Fleur as a returning running back for Delaware. St. Fleur's gotten touches as a younger player, and now he may look to take that leap forward at the FBS level. Can't forget about Greg Spiller at running back as well. A year younger than St. Fleur, but a player who certainly could be in line for a number of touches tonight if Delaware can get into the deeper stages of this one and open up a wider lead.
Spiller's someone that we haven't seen on the field yet for Delaware, but viewing him coming out of high school in Northern Virginia, John Champ High School, he really stood out a receiver. I'm pretty sure he set records both season and game as a receiver coming out of the running back position. So really curious about, Marcus Yarns could really step out and catch passes in the offense. I think, you talk about, as I was talking about with receivers, about, there's not just one receiver replacing Phil Lutz out there, but you could see a Greg Spiller fill in the receiving production that Yarns brought. And we talked to Coach Carty about, a player like Phil Lutz to start last season. I don't think even he had Phil Lutz as a breakout star from last season. I think you head into the season with a committee approach and you let those players, win the job, win the plays drawn to them. And I wouldn't be surprised to see that running back room start as a true committee and see who really starts out. But yeah, I'm very excited for Silver.
When I think about the Delaware offense, Bryce, under Coach Carty, the question that I think we were discussing in the season preview episode as well, I started speaking to the idea of which running backs can catch the ball like a receiver in this offense, because that is occasionally the case with the Yarns. And then which receivers can run the ball with the speed of a tailback, which Jojo Bermudez, formerly with Delaware, offered that speed as well. Maybe some sweeps and some carries for receivers on the move. Nick Tyree has the speed to offer that. We might see that on display tonight for Delaware. So we can talk about this offense for the whole night.
My success in my NCAA 26 is Shakari Kelly on that jet sweep. So, maybe Carty has been practicing as well, and he's going to use it on the field tonight. I started out with the wide receivers, the most rotated positional group on offense. I think my second thing I'm focused on is the most rotated group on the defensive side of the ball. Positional coach Kyrie Hawkins with that trench mob coming here second year with that. It's the most returned group out of, I think, any positional group on the roster. Of course, you lose Makard Abujade to North Carolina, but the group returns so much more from that. You're returning six-year members Jack Hall and Ethan Saunders, Keyshawn Hunter in the middle, Nick Karika in the middle. And you talked about Kyer Price really stepping out in camp this season. And some of those young guys, Trey Scott, I think he's going to be in line for a big workload this year. Caden Singleton, someone that redshirted last year. And then you add in a mix an SEC transfer, and Noah Matthews, a hometown kid that really wants to wear and represent the 302, really being back. I'm really curious to see what this rotation is going to be like on the defense side of the ball, because I think that's a positional group. They might feel comfortable going with ones, twos, threes, hitting like a double-digit amount of groups. So I'm really curious to see the rotation of the defensive line, and that's a position you want to keep fresh to get to the quarterback. So I'm really curious to see. That's a position I really don't care who's on the field for first down. I'm just curious to see how the rotation happens, as drives develop, as the game develops.
The trench mob for the Delaware defensive line, and one of the great nicknames of any position room, probably in Conference USA, although we're probably about to find out more so about some of those mantras, some of those slogans elsewhere. in the league. But for my second thing to watch, I'm going to go back to what Russ, Touchdown Club president, was speaking to earlier in the show here, and that's the player to helmet communication, the coach to player direct communication through the green dot marked helmets. It'll be interesting to see just the behind the scenes, how that unfolds on a game day. Week 1, we had our technical overcoming moment where we worked through our moment. We hope that doesn't happen to Delaware football on the speakers, but I'm just simply looking forward to seeing most likely Zach Marker's command of the offense, getting a chance, his first chance to be a starter with the in-helmet audio, and also probably even more of a fascinating one on defense, seeing KT Say expected to wear the green dot and get the in-helmet audio at free safety right there in the middle of Delaware's 3 safety base alignment. KT Say is fun to watch in general, but now the way he can orchestrate the defense in an even more defined leadership role, because he'll be the one with Coach Rojas in his ear, in his helmet, and that'll be the coach-to-player comms that we won't necessarily get to see it unnecessarily on full display unless something is going wrong. So if it doesn't come up as a big topic, that may be because everything went smoothly, but it is interesting to think about who would come in and have that role if, say, we're absent for a play or for a drive, heaven forbid, from a Delaware perspective. So just another thing to look at in terms of the tech and the updates this year at the Division I level.
An unofficial thing that I have to watch. You talked about Coach Manny Rojas. I think he's going to be up in the booth this year.
Right.
For as somebody as animated as Rojas is on the sideline, an unofficial thing to watch is how long will he not be able to sit in the booth anymore until he has to get down on the field.
Right. Maybe it's during the game tonight. We'll find out.
Maybe it'll be a halftime adjustment. Maybe it'll be mid-drive adjustment. But the green dot is curious to me because I know some offenses run with that Mike linebacker running it sometimes. Sometimes it's that free safety. So from what you heard, you think it's Say leading it to start the year?
Yes. Ed LaFerge's media game notes, I believe, had that designation. So I always recommend Ed LaFerge's notes. He and his staff, Eli Velpin, also making that packet for us and for everybody in the community. Yeah, a huge bundle for week 1. So it's great reading material for you when you're not listening to us blather on, baby.
Yeah, well, thanks for that note on that. And the 15-second rule is really interesting to me. You can communicate. You know, it could be a pre-snap adjustment. You see how the offense is, and it could be a quick audible. Heading into my, third thing to watch, I've talked about 2 positional groups that rotate so much, but the scholarship count for the Delaware program is officially from 63 to 85. And, throughout fall camp, we've had an opportunity as media to meet with those positional coaches. And I think the common theme heading through the entire fall season was how deep each positional group is. And, it might come from that scholarship limit. You think about 63, 85, you're probably getting 1 to 2 more position added in with that jump. But, Sean Goldrich, I think he said this is the deepest quarterback room he's ever coached in his time at Delaware. Coach Hawkins, who I just mentioned with the trench mob, he said this is the deepest room. And Kariko Wright with the corners said this is the deepest they've ever been since he's arrived from Furman to Delaware. I don't think they're going to rotate quarterbacks every play, talking about the deepest in the room, but I think the program is comfortable that any of those 6 can step in and take over the offense when needed. So I guess without the quarterbacks, I'm really curious to see early season, throughout the season, how the program really utilizes and showcases that depth. Will it be, will it really showcase more if injuries aside, or are there going to be more rotations to conserve for the rest of the season? So I guess I'm really curious to see how the rotation is going to work for those positions that do rotate. Quarterback, offensive line maybe taken away.
I'm glad you mentioned the Delaware cornerback room. That's Delaware CB corners, because unlike wide receiver, where it seems like the vibe has been that room has gotten a bit healthier too late in the preseason camp process. There may be a couple more names not available at corner, and we're sure on specifics, of course, but we'll see maybe more prolonged snaps for individual starters at corner tonight. Or we could be pleasantly surprised, but it'll just be intriguing to see how Delaware lines up as a baseline starter level corner group for the names who are healthy and available after losing Tyron Herring to the NFL opportunity that Tyron just had.
Big shout out to him, for being on the Green Bay Packers practice squad heading into the season.
So that's just one of the groups I'm glad you spotlighted, because I do think we talk about Delaware's offense and receivers a ton, right? Because the edges of the field is where Delaware can win, especially in this Coach Carty offense, a spread attack, move the ball all over the field. Everybody seems like they get a touch. It seems like the distribution of targets is really well balanced. But on defense, the edges of the defense are really going to matter as well, because we think about the up the middle strengths that you and I talk about off the air. Delaware at defensive line, veteran defensive linemen, including at nose guard in the middle of the defense. Delaware's middle linebackers being as experienced and strong as they are. But then you also go to the safeties and say Hassan Manning, Jason Scott at safety. That's not to mention my son Pollard and Khalil Ali we expect to see tonight, the Boston College transfer. So not to get too in the weeds of the defense and not get to my third thing, but the corner group doesn't get included in our discussion of the up the middle strength of the defense.
Yeah, and we've talked about all these positional groups so much. We released an episode last week that went over 2 hours and 15 minutes long, and I think a good chunk of that came down to breaking down each positional group. We didn't get to talk about the special teams, so I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Nate Reed, preseason watches for the conference, and Brendan Locke coming in at punter, and Noah Vitko at long snapper. So I know we didn't cover that in the live show. I wanted to throw that in before we get to it.
That's major, Bryce, because you think about recently Delaware's transfer punters who have had such success over a number of years consecutively. You can go back, and I don't want to get out of order here, but South Dakota State transfer, Ben Dinkle, you would remember, Ryan Kost transferring to punt from Monmouth, and Josh Cupid last season from Towson.
And we haven't seen the last of them. Maybe not in 25, but.
Right. But we'll see Josh Cupid again is our hope. But for this near term, Brendan Locke, another transfer punter, this time from below the Division I ranks. And it seems like at this point, you could trust Delaware to identify that transfer punter, make it plug and play. That changes games, flipping the field, maybe saves a game when you spare or avoid a terrible turnover or a harsh field position situation.
I'm team special teams matter. I love talking special teams.
Well, before I beat around the bush anymore, I'll get to my third thing to watch, which is just the fanfare of the opener tonight in terms of being at home with some new changes. 2 pregame traditions. We'll see Delaware take the field with a new method of entrance. No more inflatable tunnel. I expect a lot of smoke. I expect the smoke sleds, or the CO2 sleds they're calling it, to have a pretty sustained CO2 show for 20 seconds, 17, 18 seconds while the team hits the field. So it'll look a little different, but I think also similar with the band making its tunnel as the team takes the field tonight. Delaware Athletics sharing about some of those game day updates in the team's entrance to the field, but also the band's entrance to the field will be a bit new, how they march on. It'll be from the visitor sideline forward toward the home stands, and that'll be fun to see as well. And under relatively new UDMB leadership, just seeing how everything kind of fits together in one piece on the first game day under a CUSA banner. Just see kind of the tweaks that's been made to the game day experience, but also those key traditions that I know the crowd in here is looking forward to upholding at the FBS level.
Me and you spend all offseason talking about the roster, the coaching staff, the schedule. So I'm so glad you talked about the game day atmosphere, that stuff that we're going to see before those players. So I'm really excited to see that as well, and I'm glad you noted that as one of your three spots.
I couldn't resist, because if you grow up on it like I did, you kind of notice all the little things year over year. If you're crazy enough, you'll notice it. And I know that the turnout here and the touchdown club here certainly does.
Well, we've had 4 amazing guests today with Jordan Skolnick and Pat Cowley really kicking us off. And then, Z sitting down with us and talking about the program from a development side. And then also talking to Russ and understanding the touchdown club more. And then us being able to sit down and really finish it off, really focus on what's at hand, and that's the 2025 season opener for the Hens. And I think overall this has been a great experience, sitting down here in Grain Exchange, first time for the live show. Butterflies got out of the way, and now we get to enjoy the Blue Hens on the field. So, Dan, super excited about how this went today.
Well, Bryce, I want to personally thank you for having me involved and also bearing with me today. I was multitasking. I had a busy day on my way in.
You wear a lot of hats, but you do a good job maintaining them on your head.
Well, we'll see if I can sustain that. Sustain success, right? That's what all coaches say. But I appreciate you, Bryce, working with me and your patience with me and your belief in me and allowing me to be here. And our collaboration has been a great time. Brody, thank you so much for spending over 2 hours. I'm going to give Brody a round of applause in the venue.
Brody was awesome.
Yeah, Brody, our production was just I couldn't dream of doing any of this on just our duo or just by ourselves. So, and I know, Bryce, you also wanted to thank additional key figures in this, our host, Grain Exchange, and the list goes on.
Yeah, Grain Exchange, Pete and Lee just really working alongside us over these past couple weeks, understanding this backdrop is perfect for our lives. This just calls that we're in studio right now, and I think this is just a perfect setup. Us having, you might not be able to see it on live stream, but just a beautiful backdrop on TV, and just again thanking Z not only for sitting down with us, but for really working with us in this partnership. It's really fun, and for Casey working alongside Z as well to make an event happen like this, and to Russ and the entire Touchdown Club. Thanks for involving us in this, and it's been a fantastic day. And thanks to everyone in here listening to us for the past hour and a half too, as well. So thanks to all of you for taking the time being here and supporting Feathers and Field Goals.
Well, Bryce, I don't think we can sign off for good. And we're really making up for some lost time. Our couple minutes, we can tack on past 5 after the start of our show. But we need your score take here. We have our Del State and Delaware game day set up right here. You mentioned the backdrop. So it's only right that we kind of close things out with putting our necks out there and forecasting what we're going to see here in the opener.
It's funny. I haven't even thought about a score prediction, but I'm thinking of moments where the offense really shines today. Finally not playing each other on the side of the ball. First thing that came to mind, special teams gets a couple moments, gets a couple field goals. I'm going to go with 41-13. 41-13 for the Hens today to kick off the 2025 season before they head out west to Boulder. What about yourself?
That's going to be its own week where we'll be all over that in the next episode to come, but. For my score prediction, since I put it out there where I'm going to have to hold myself to it as well, I'm going to go with a touch under that offensive output. Just for the opener, I'd love to be right by total points, but I'm going to roll with Delaware in this one by the total of a touch lower, 38-6. That's going to be my final. I think Delaware's defense can be smothering. Now, Delaware State's quarterback is a newcomer to the program. We're expecting Caden Bennett to start for DSU, coming in from Sacramento State. That's a player who's played at the FCS level and had success. So it won't be an easy push for Delaware's defense. But I do think in the end, the extra edge of the first time playing in this level as a member of CUSA, Delaware's defense, Coach Rojas looking down from the booth this time and seeing, I think, 38-6 for the total.
Well, there you have it, and we're about to see it on the field, so we'll see which of our predictions are right. But from Brody, Dan, and myself, from Feathers and Field Goals, those online watching us, those Grain Exchange listening to us, thank you so much for being here today and supporting us, and go Hens.
Thank you.